Hello and welcome to the Raptors Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Samson Folk, and today an all-star guest for the episode closest to All-Star Weekend. Bill Simmons gave his daughter a podcast, I believe. So if any of you come after me for having a friend on as a guest, it's over for you. It's over. But Dana Smart of Great Dane Draws on Instagram. You can find her at Great Dane 92 on Twitter. One of my favorite follows, one of my favorite people to talk to online. The comedic flair, the artistry. It's all great. Dana, how you doing?
I'm great, Samson. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm just trying to relax. It's a little bit gray out here, and I played tennis yesterday, so things have been going well. I've been enjoying the days off from working and doing reaction podcast type things. But how have you been the last couple of days? What's All-Star Weekend look like for you?
We're actually getting some nice weather around here in Southern Ontario, so that's good. Hoping that it stays. So, yeah, doing well.
Okay. And you said something about fiber optic?
I'm out in Puslinch, Ontario, which is kind of the boonies. So we're on Bell Internet. We have what's called a turbo hub, and it's not your high-speed internet. So if you hear kind of a bit of ruckus outside, we're finally getting some fiber optic internet getting installed, which is really exciting for us.
I went through something similar with my dad when I was in Sturgis, Saskatchewan, where I'm from. I was there last summer, and I had to do some work to cover the basketball games, and there had to be a certain amount of internet speed, and I let my dad know beforehand. I was like, it has to be a certain speed, otherwise I can't visit because I won't be able to do work. So it was this big thing because they dug for the line in Sturgis, and my dad, there's 700 people where I grew up, and he was like, I have the fastest speed in town. And, people asked me about it. When I would just be driving around town, they'd be like, how's the internet? And it's like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's a big deal to get it in there. But
it's really
talk. Yeah.
I get in trouble if I watch a 5-minute YouTube clip. So
get in trouble? There's consequences?
Big consequences. You go over the limit and you're paying extra money, and it's big, big, big bad.
That's why you're rooted in art, physical. I guess.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Necessity is the art of invention or something like that. There's a term. It's close to that. But okay. First things first, we're going to talk a little basketball because this is the Raptors Weekly Podcast. Dana, your thoughts on the Raptors this year. What have you enjoyed? What have you disliked? On court, off court, whatever floats your boat.
Starting, I guess, with maybe the pros, the things that I've enjoyed. Favorite part has definitely been seeing players outperform expectations. So Boucher as a potential 6-man candidate, stuff like that. Your Stanley and Bembry with roles as rotation players, not really expecting things like that. You actually used a word on one of your most recent pieces. I think it was maybe the Bembry piece, the heliocentric. I think I made it maybe tease you for maybe being a big boy word a little bit too big for me. But I really like the way that our team is not playing that type of basketball. That, on any given night you could have Fred, Kyle, Pascal, even OG or Boucher going for 30. You never know who it's going to be. It's really enjoyable for me when you can have any of those individual contributors. And I just really like it when you can have that. Yeah, so just people outperforming expectations, having the individual contributions, and that kind of stuff. For negatives, I don't think anyone really had a good time enjoying that rough start there, the 2-8. So that was definitely not a positive. And as one does, you go on Twitter and Reddit, and people were calling for things like fire Nurse, blaming individuals, anyone ranging from Nurse to Masai to Pascal to Kawhi, any individual for the team's poor performance. I think just the collective, the way that the everyone kind of reacted in that way. Was not really enjoyable to see that kind of reaction from everyone. But, we just kind of had to keep things in perspective. There were just certain circumstances that the whole team was facing. And, as we're seeing now, that was probably just a little blip. They overcame that. And what about
Here
you?
we are. I've enjoyed a lot of stuff. I do agree, a diverse offense. I think not heliocentric, but egalitarian would be the term probably the Raptors use a little bit more often. And that's fun because, when you're cheering for a team that isn't at the top of the standings, you're looking for hope in a lot of different ways. My favorite player of all time is DeMar DeRozan, and being able to look at him creeping up over 20 points per game was super cool. And it was also cool that it wasn't just him, that Kyle was also becoming, a top 10 to some, top 15 to a lot, and then bottom 50 to, some people on the internet. But when people rise up, it gives you something to cheer for with fans. We like the idea of momentum, building to something, progressing somewhere. And watching guys like even Pascal, who struggled in some ways, he's progressed in a ton. And Fred, especially, I think, with the biggest step, Norm continuing to do his thing, Boucher you brought up, that's really fun. The low points, I think, was during that 2-8 stretch. Blake and I were concocting like bits we could do on the Reaction podcast where he would be the devil on my shoulder and he would egg me on to get progressively more negative because I lean probably way more optimistic than a lot of Reaction podcasts, be it in Toronto or elsewhere. And usually I just shake off if something bad happens, like, yeah, it's bad, it happened. But he would be playing the role of whatever, Emperor's New Groove. Who is it, Kronk? And
Sure, yeah.
I guess Devil Kronk would be on my shoulder. And Jacob Mack, we were also, but he's very, very intelligent, and I like him a lot. But we were kind of trying to concoct things we could do too, where we were doing a bunch of impressions. And the more impressions I do, it's either going really well, because I did a bunch of them for the Reaction podcast as we're getting closer to the title. But if we start swinging the other way, I feel like the darker the alley, the more impressions come out of me. And I don't think anybody wants to hear that. So those were dark days, I think.
Sure.
Okay, so we've covered the dark stuff and the light stuff. So I want to ask you about something that I know nothing about. It just seems difficult to me. And I think that's when you're looking at something and you don't understand it, automatically it seems difficult. And there's this mysticism about it. And that's how I feel about art, because I can't draw or do anything. Even when I was forced to go to Sunday service and would barricade my door when I was a kid, like 4 years old, it was because I didn't want to do arts and crafts. I just never liked arts and crafts. I felt like I couldn't create anything. So to a person like me, drawing seems extremely difficult. So I'm wondering, who are the easiest to draw? Who's the most difficult? And why? What makes an easy, what's the term? Muse, I suppose?
Sure.
Subject?
Yeah. So I use, at least recently, when I've been doing digital things, I've been using my iPad, and I've been using a few different styles, but to do player portraits or NBA portraits, I've been doing a vector-based style. And what that means is they start off as geometric shapes pretty much, and then they're kind of built from there. So I find the players that faces lend themselves the best to that is when they have really strong features. So if they have big eyes, strong cheekbones, a really big smile, things like that, they ultimately, kind of the goal is to look a little bit caricature or cartoonish, but, not too far from that. So I found kind of easy-ish ones, or ones that have been pretty successful, are like Pascal. I found Pascal turned out pretty well. He has these really big eyes, a huge smile. Ja Morant, I found his turned out really well. He has these really distinct eyebrows. The hair is really characteristic. So things like that. Really distinct features and things like that. Particularly with that's with my style. If people are going for, or illustrators are going for a more realistic or a realist approach. They probably have a different idea, but that's just from me.
It fascinates me because when we had Chris Chapak, a friend of mine, do the art for Minute Basketball, he was making it like very, very realistic, but you have to make it something different than it is. So you have to there's an impression that their faces leave on you, and you have to create it similarly, but not exactly the same. And so for Chris, like realistic art is obviously incredible, but I understand the method. With you, I was just fascinated because I'm like, how do you turn a blob into a face? Especially if their faces don't look like a blob. My face is like round, and I feel like I have a blob face, but guys like Pascal or Jaw with the cut cheekbones and the jawline, that fascinates me.
This is just kind of, related to how it's kind of a caricature, is probably the most annoying comment that I've ever gotten on my art. And it's kind of frequent, is when people say, you did blank dirty, or, you really messed up. That's really what they say, is you did blank dirty. And like, what does that mean? Like, it's a caricature, you're supposed to accentuate their features or, that kind of thing. So it's completely pointless when people say things like that. And it's just, I don't know.
We got one on mine. I don't know if you saw that comment. They said you did my hairline dirty.
Yeah. Jeez.
But and I responded that my hairline does itself dirty. There's some facts to life. You just can't fight it. Okay,
well,
so
it makes me feel better. I like your hair. I think it's gorgeous and majestic.
Thank you. Gorgeous, flowing, majestic, all the stuff I want to hear. Okay, so back into the Raptors. When and how did your Raptors fandom start? Did it ever wane, or were you firmly entrenched in like the Anthony Parker Raptors fandom? Because I've seen pictures of you that you've shared to social media where you're very young and into basketball, more so than I was at that age. So I'm interested, how was your fandom like from a child to now?
Yeah, my dad's side of the family particularly are quite involved in basketball. And so I guess you could say I was kind of thrown into it from a pretty young age. And I was born in 1992 as well. So I guess the franchise was born and growing when I was young. So I also think that my parents probably had a little bit of Raptors fever, and it was a pretty exciting thing for basketball fans in the area when I was young. So, you do see those pictures from when I was younger. My parents have those pictures of my brother and I, my older brother, with, Raptors inauguration year. And pretty young age when it started. There definitely were some, little wanes, waxes and wanes with the fandom. Particularly, it became hard to watch the games when I went to university. So, both with not having satellite or cable TV and being super busy with studying and stuff like that. But I also kind of find that that's when I started to mostly create the art that was related to Raptors, the Raptors, kind of as a way to keep that connection with the culture and the team, not being able to watch complete games, watching YouTube clips and looking at box scores wasn't really as fun or fulfilling. So I started to create the art and that sort of stuff. And I had a lot of fun with that and just kept going. And how about yourself? When did you start to?
Yeah, when I was about 10, I started watching the Raptors quite often because where I grew up, a lot of people went on to play high-level lacrosse from the small town I'm from. Lacrosse was the big thing there. Hockey in Saskatchewan is obviously quite large. And basketball wasn't a big deal. My brother, he really started to like basketball, and that influenced me. And when that started to happen, I started watching the Raptors. And Luol Deng was my favorite player for a long time because he wore the number 9, and Paul Kariya wore number 9 in hockey. And Paul Kariya was my favorite. Number 9 was my favorite. And then eventually I moved on from Luol Deng to Raptors fandom and DeMar DeRozan. And I just remember championing this idea that DeMar DeRozan was, at least for a time, the NBA player who had scored the most points in England because they played those 2 games against the New Jersey Nets when they were from New Jersey at that point in time.
Yeah.
And that was very formative for me. I was like, yes, DeMar DeRozan. Nobody scored more NBA points in Europe than him. And that's really what Raptors fandom was for a long time, was just finding something small to claim that would seem very unimportant to other fan bases or other people, and then championing it for yourself. But DeMar, that was, the tail end of, I guess, high school was the start of when DeMar was coming up. And I really enjoyed that team, and that's where everything started picking up a lot. But I was a fan of Jose Calderon, Anthony Parker, the very early days of Andrea Bargnani, as disastrous as they were. But I came in just at the end of the Chris Bosh era, and that takes me to now. It's been fairly steady. I didn't have any school that was so intensive that I didn't get to watch stuff. I actually found that I had more free time when I went to school because I just didn't go to class, basically. But that was where it started for me, and it's been obviously a big part of my life working in the field. But how about basketball just in general for you? What's basketball been like in your life? Because I know you're a hooper, obviously.
It was mostly house league for me. House league and just at school, like at elementary and high school level. So yeah, nothing big, no varsity or anything like that. Yeah.
You said your family is also involved in it?
Yeah, quite a bit. So the Smart side, my dad's cousin, Dave Smart, he was head coach of the Carleton Ravens for quite a while there. If you're familiar with, I don't know if they still are, quite a dynasty there. And we went out to watch the finals in Halifax a few years in a row when I was in grade school. And he was coach, and then I had some cousins who played on the team for a while there. And so, yeah, that was really fun following that for a few years there. And then I had one cousin on that side as well who played at the NCAA level for Boston College. And we went down to watch him a few times. So, yeah, that was really exciting. He had some interesting teammates there. Jared Dudley was one of the notable ones.
A legend in his own right, and obviously your cousin as well, just by proxy of the...
Yeah.
and then you.
We're very proud of them.
Yeah.
Me.
That's great. Yeah, well, we just follow it down the line. That's just attempts at nepotism.
Sure. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Nepotism legacy. I think that's what it's called. And maybe we can get you there if we try hard enough, we get enough propaganda going.
Yeah. Propaganda.
Yes. Okay, so this takes us into our next question. Dana, we don't know what you look like when you play basketball. And it's your story to spin, to propagandize, however you like. Who is your player comp? And not who do you play like? Who in the NBA plays Dana Smart basketball? That's what I'm wondering.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take this chance to really champion for this player. I would play like all hustle. So just hustle all the time. So I'm definitely going to be getting in there and getting those rebounds. But once I have that ball, you're probably going to be holding your breath until the ball's out of my hands. So it might be a little bit of a liability when I have the ball. So I'm going to take this moment to say that Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson should be on an NBA team right now. So, yeah, I'd probably be one of those ones, just working really hard, but not the best with the ball at all times. Maybe he has those little flashes, but not, yeah.
Hustle man, Dane. Hustle man. Who am I? Oh, yeah. See, this is something I've fought with my whole life, is that every guy, well, okay, so if I were to play CIS basketball, which I never did, I didn't end up playing CIS basketball. And so if I was going to play CIS basketball, I would have, coming out of high school, had to put on quite a bit of weight just so I could hang, because I was like 140 pounds coming out of high school. I just finished a growth spurt. And if I wanted to hang, I would have had to be like grimy and grubby, like TJ McConnell or Matthew Dellavedova. And that's to succeed at the next level. If I wanted to, you have to be grimy and grubby if you're not like 6'3" and a very good athlete, or you have to be a really good shooter. And I had just broken my hand and got nerve damage, so that I didn't have initially. And when I think about my game at high school level, I'm Russell Westbrook. But if I had to play against guys, like when I went to the States and played, it was fun. But I had to play a very limited role of myself. And it's kind of like TJ McConnell, like a hustle defender who's like in your face and annoying. But I don't play like that normally. But if you want to compete against guys who are very, very talented, like when I went to college tryouts and there was guys who were like 23 years old from JUCO schools in the United States who had like 40 pounds on me, I just had to figure out other ways to contribute. So at a high level, I'm like the most annoying player you've ever seen, and you would hate me. And at like a house league level, or just like a random pickup game, I would try and emulate James Harden probably, just because he's a lefty and, you know, it's fun to be an ISO guy like that. But that's too much time spent on me as far as basketball, but probably annoying, I would say. And then if there's no stakes, hopefully just fun, I guess. But I like Hustle Man Dane for you. Yeah. It's a great one. Okay, so we're about to enter our wheelhouse. It's a shame Blake isn't here, but Always Sunny in Philadelphia, one of the binding factors of our friendship. And something that holds together a small sect of Raptors Twitter is the meme economy of Always Sunny and its crossover with the Toronto Raptors. So Charlie, Dennis, Mac, fat or otherwise, D, and Frank. We need NBA comps for all of them. I have mine written down. I'm interested to hear what you think. I'll lead off, and we can go back and forth from here. So for Charlie, I have Russell Westbrook because he's ferociously loyal to the woman in his life. He's incredibly erratic, and that stretches from extreme highs to extreme lows. So rat smashing to getting the bar ready for the health inspector. There's the good and the bad. And both Charlie and Russ have shot their teams into wins and out of losses. There's the good and the bad. There's a lot going on. And I feel like Charlie is Russell Westbrook. Who do you think Charlie is?
That was very thoughtful. When I was looking into Charlie, I just went with wild card, like someone who you could see just cutting the brakes on the van. So I don't know. Like I thought Raptors specific first, and out of all of them, honestly, the only one I could see doing that was Boucher. I can kind of see him doing that. And then NBA, kind of like a Whiteside.
Okay.
He's just
Whiteside. He also has that famous picture where he says "ready or not," which could be illiteracy.
Illiterate. Yeah. He's kind of perfect.
Wow, Whiteside is a really good one. Have you ever seen where NBA 2K, like the My Player arc, it has players come and do voice acting? Have you ever seen the supercut of the really, really bad voice actors from the NBA? It's I'll send it to you after. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But okay, so we've got Whiteside and Boucher. He broke protocol when coronavirus was first becoming a thing. Real wild card behavior. So you got Russ, Chris Boucher, and Whiteside. So we'll move on to Dennis. I have Kelly Oubre as Dennis. And there's nothing insane going on here. It's not as well thought out as Charlie, but hyper into their looks, the both of them, and they both have crazy eyes. Absolutely insane person, serial killer eyes. Mm-hmm. Who is your Dennis?
Dennis, I just thought of Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
Yep. Just because of what did they say about the during the Olympics when was it that the women said that he was like the most something about the most sexual man or whatever. And yeah, that's the only one. He was the toughest I found to think of a Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis is a maniac.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's some guys in the NBA are a maniac, but you don't want to say it because of the blowback, because of the controversy that comes with it. But I think, Jimmy Butler is the certified lover boy of the Team USA team. I think it was prostitutes labeled him as the best lover on the team. And I don't know if that's just bad translation or if they went around interviewing like prostitutes. I'm not sure, but either way, apparently he can throw his weight around. He can make it work. But
and then just similar reasons to your Kelly Oubre there. Cares about his appearance, that kind of thing.
If Dennis had the body, he would wear crop tops. 100% he would. So
for sure. Yeah.
And if Dennis wanted to get something done, he would be in the gym at 3 a.m. It's just he would be motivated similarly. Yeah. Okay. I definitely see it. It's very good. And, Jimmy has that like fake threaten you with violence thing, but Dennis has the real one, but that moves us close enough for me. Okay. I'll start us off with Mac, and I'm going back in time. Glenn Big Baby Davis, in tune with his emotions, a sweetheart a lot of the time, and he had a somewhat Mac-Dennis relationship with Kevin Garnett. That's what I think.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
And he's large, so it works too.
I went the pretty easy route on this one with James Harden. Just cultivating mass and then losing it at a very rapid pace. Yeah, that was kind of easy.
On body mass alone, dude.
Body mass alone.
Okay, James is a very good answer. Okay, so D. Who do you have for D? I think I have a great answer.
Larry Bird.
That was, I said Larry Bird, of course, but then I said Rudy Gobert, Bird-like, and not well-liked by her peers.
Yes. I don't know if is there anyone who just, does characters? I didn't know if there's anyone who, is trying to get into acting or...
Blake Griffin?
Yeah, maybe. Or,
Blake Griffin does stand-up comedy.
He does?
Yeah, he does.
I didn't even know that.
He's not bad, I don't think.
I find him a very funny individual. I just don't know if he can do stand-up.
I think I saw one stand-up, and he was talking about having sex in the NBA, which is an untapped market for storytelling. So he'll probably get far as much as... Could you imagine hearing Jimmy Butler tell his stories about when he was in Rio? I mean, wow. People would pay so much, but you got to keep it close to the chest. Unless you're Blake, of course, because he has carte blanche. I suppose. Okay, last one. Perhaps the favorite one. And this one I have a long explanation for, and I'll lead off. Frank. Frank is Kyle Lowry. Had to grind in a million different ways to find his success. His success allows everyone around him to succeed in their own ways. Does the equivalent of dumpster diving on the basketball court. Has a wide appeal to a bunch of different people. Steals every scene he's in and is ageless. So for all those reasons, Kyle and Frank are analogous to me.
That was wonderful. So I started this one by going with the Mantis. And I went with I went DeMontis as the Mantis. But then I found out that Mikal Bridges, on Basketball Reference, his nickname is actually Praying Mantis. Yes, I found that out by Googling Praying Mantis NBA. And then also it could be Donovan Mitchell. He could be the man Spider Mitchell.
Okay.
A little bit less thoughtful as yours. I like yours a lot better.
I like Domantas Sabonis the best. That's incredible. That's really, really funny. And then Yeah, I will always love that Basketball Reference has the nicknames on the page because it allowed me to dupe the Raptors Info Japan page into thinking that Dayman was actually Yuta Watanabe's
That was
nickname.
so funny.
I was like, yes, the propaganda, it continues. But yeah.
I love them so much, though.
They're so good. They're literally
They're great.
they
Shout out to them.
translated my article and then so that people in Japan could read it. They do that with a lot of my articles. It's super nice. It's really cool. I guess it doesn't go to Raptors Republic, but sorry, Zarar, sorry, Blake. But that's fine. Just cool that people get to read it. But okay, back to Raptors stuff. Leaving the realm of It's Always Sunny. We'll be back there shortly on Twitter, I assume. But Dana, if you've been to a game, which I assume you have, I'd like to hear about it. If you've been to a bunch, do you have any fond memories? What's the Raptors experience been like for you?
Yeah, I have been to a bunch. The past couple of years, probably more than ever before. And most recently, I've been pretty lucky to attend some good ones. A couple years ago versus the Trailblazers, I think it was March 2019. It was Kawhi with a few seconds left. He hit a game winner just from the corner, jump shot. It was pretty cool. And it's just really, when you're there live, so electric to feel the atmosphere there. It makes you really think what it would be like to experience something like the Game 7 shot, things like that. And yeah, that one was really, really fun. Another, I was pretty lucky again. I don't know if you've ever had the Raptors app on your phone.
No.
Nope.
I haven't.
Well, you should get the Raptors app and play some of the games because I played, I'm not lucky with that kind of stuff. There are some games where you play and you can win stuff. I played one of the games and not much longer after that, I got an email from MLSE and I got to go to, it was like the fan deck, went on OVO night. It was pretty fun. And they were playing the Lakers. So that was a pretty fun experience. Yeah.
All from the app.
How about you? From the app. Yeah.
Remarkable. For me, my favorite moment is an anti-Raptors moment. And I've told this story on a couple podcasts, but it's really funny to me. It was Jeremy Lamb when he hit the game winner from half court, that heave. And I was in the arena and I thought it was so funny because I love the Raptors, but I guess emotionally I'm more reserved than most fans. And that's not a good or bad thing. I'm not saying fans need to be reserved, but the crowd started booing after the shot went in because instinctively they're like, it wasn't a bad call. It wasn't anything like that. He just hit a half-court shot. The Raptors lost, and the fans were like, boo, boo that shot. And I just thought it was such a funny response, and I had never seen anything like that before, like a made shot and booing. Especially for a guy as inconsequential as Jeremy Lamb.
For sure.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And when I got to see DeMar DeRozan for the first time was really cool. I just watched him warm up because he was my favorite player growing up. And I thought that was kick-ass, and I enjoyed it a bunch. And I think he played against the Wizards, and he had like 36 and like 7. And it was just cool to watch him work because I had always been fascinated with his game. And yeah, the Raptors continue to be one of the most fun teams. And well, this year, as far as on-court product, maybe a little like more middle of the road, but they, for however many years, they've just been a fantastic watch. And anybody who gets to go to a game, that's a really cool thing. But going to practice was a cool thing too. And just getting to talk to players and do all that kind of stuff. And for the first time and go through the motions on that stuff was really cool. Just chill out and watch them work through all the stuff that they do, be it like OG. On the three-pointer, you see Mark at that point in time sit down with the Spanish TV crew, and then Pascal was working on his spin move on the other end. And I was like, wow, are these the seeds of something big coming? And, it was. So that was, it's all very cool. Cool team to be attached to, I think.
Yeah, that's very exciting that you got to see that.
Okay, Dana, are you ready? Well, do you have any other stories you'd like to share, or should we get into the Twitter questions?
Let's do it. Let's get into those.
Okay, let me pull them up with the quickness. From Blake Murphy, friend of the podcast, maybe. Maybe not friend of the podcast.
Maybe.
Blake, quote, how hard was it to draw around the annoying parts of Samson's face, end quote. And I'll give my profile picture on Twitter was done by the immensely talented Dana. And I asked her to do it. And the results were fantastic. I love it. It'll be my profile picture for the foreseeable future. It's great. But Blake wanted to know, Dana, how hard was it to draw around the annoying parts of my face, which I would guess would be cheeks, forehead.
Well, this is your podcast, Samson, so I'm going to be as complimentary as I can.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm going to say that there are no annoying parts to your face. So I didn't have that problem. I did not face that challenge.
Agree to disagree, which is fun. But okay. From BWH or at BW Hildebrandt, quote, who are the Raptors group of seven? And I looked up group of seven on Google, and it seemed to be referring to a group of seven artists from the 1920s. And so I guess, are you aware of this?
I am aware, yes. This is a challenging question, though.
Okay. Can you walk us through that in some regard, the group of seven, what that means?
Yeah, so it is a group of seven Canadian artists, and I believe that they paint Canadian landscapes. I don't know very much more about them, but yeah, it's very neat artwork.
Yeah, I wonder if they painted the landscape that was Jeff Winger's profile picture that dictated he had no ego. Okay, group of seven, I guess I'll answer this for starters.
Sure.
It would be the most creative, be that in their physical expression or their basketball artistry, which is physical expression again. Okay, well, let's do all time just so we can keep it. Serge is an artist in his own way, of course. OG as well. DeAndre Bembry for his Spider-Man-esque rim hangs, I think, is a form of artistry. And Kyle Lowry for his ability to conduct chaos and steer it in the correct.
He drew himself with Cabby.
Yes, and he drew himself wonderfully, very accurate. And Matt Shantz had an incredible redrawing of that drawing that was just like Hall of Fame level. And Vince, obviously, McGrady, and then let's go DeMar. I think that's seven. If it's six, sue me. Take me to Bird Law, which is not governed by reason. But do you have any seven players, Dana?
I think that's great. I'll agree with that.
We'll go with, yeah, that's a dual list. Okay, from Mitch, at Mitch Wheeler 19, on this podcast, often referred to as Kind Mitch, coined on the episode I did with Kelsey O'Brien, wherein we had a question from Mitch, and Kelsey said, oh, he's so kind, to which I concurred. So Mitch says, holy shit, how did I miss this news? The two GOATs. My question is, you're directing an action movie and one current Raptor has to star in it. Who are you going with? Okay, first of all, thank you, Mitch. That's incredibly kind. But Dana, who are you starring in a movie if you're the Raptors?
This is a tricky one because I find that they're all, I believe that they could all do their own stunts, that kind of thing. But the intensity with which Jalen Harris delivers his infamous "We the North" makes me believe that he could be, a Liam Neeson-esque star. And I think he probably has some serious acting chops underneath there. So I'd probably go with him.
He could do like a John Heder or a Michael Cera, like a Mewling Quim type of leading man performance. Very like, oh God, oh. Like that would be really good. Yeah. Then you could go with OG. OG could be the straight man in any sort of buddy cop film or some sort of more flavorful duo, whichever you prefer. Kyle Lowry has the stuff of your remarkable leading man. I think Pascal has the emotional depth to steal the show in a drama. But ultimately, Fred as the family man, and he's just trying to get everybody through the days. I think he's a layman, an everyday guy that you could cheer for, and I'd love to see him star in a film. He'd hopefully like in Chicago or New York. I'd like to see him beard and toque, a lot of beard and toque for Fred. I think he'd be really easy to cheer for.
That was a great question, Mitch.
Yeah, great question, Mitch. Thank you. Yes, kind as well. Okay, so this one, I feel like I'm on the outside of it, to be quite honest. It's from Guided by Brody. Quote, I don't know you, and I only just started following the Samson kid a couple weeks ago, so forgive me if this is asked a lot. Who is the greatest baller to ever come from Puslinch, Ontario? Brody from close to Puslinch. Do you know Brody? That's my first question.
I do not believe I know Brody.
How many people live in Puslinch?
10,000?
I was thinking that it was similar to where I grew up, where there are 700 people. I was like, you guys must know each other then. But
no, not
10,000 is way more.
I'll Google it. But Brody, this question does not get asked often.
Is Puslinch close enough that if somebody made it to the NBA, people would say they're from Toronto? Or is it too far for that?
They'd probably say. It's like, do people say Shay is from Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, then they'd probably say.
Except I think Jeff Van Gundy pushed back on it one time. He was like, oh, no, it's not actually Toronto. And everybody was like, that's right. North of York, I don't want to hear it. But whatever.
Gonna be honest, I don't know of anyone from Puslinch that has made it in the basketball world, made it out of here. But I did go to grade school in Guelph, and I work in Guelph, and most everything based out of Guelph, Ontario. And I did cross paths with Natalie Anwa, who is now on Indiana Fever. So that's kind of neat. Played house league with her. She annihilated me every time we were on the court together. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Natalie.
Sounds like Dana Smart is the best player to ever come from Puslinch. That's what it sounds like to me.
mean, to answer the question short, that's, probably how it goes. Yeah.
We have 2 questions left. One from S, one from Evan. So from Esfandiar Berhaney, friend of the podcast, quote, if Paddington Bear was about to clothesline Kyle Lowry, keep in mind, I have not seen the movie, would you stop Paddington? End quote. Dana, this seems very up your alley. I'd love to know.
Yeah. If you follow me, you probably know that both of these individuals hold a very special place in my heart. So, ultimately my goal is to prevent harm to both of them. I think Paddington, he cultivates quite a bit of mass from eating all that marmalade. And as we know, Kyle's a very fit and solid guy. So, a collision between them could be pretty catastrophic. So, in short, yeah, I'm going to prevent Paddington from doing this. You need to watch that movie.
What do you do to stop that from happening? Is there something you can yell that you're sure would get one of them to stop?
He's a very reasonable creature, Paddington. But, marmalade would probably get him to stop.
Okay. Set out some marmalade and suddenly everything's copacetic.
Yeah.
Do you think Kyle leaves aggrieved? How are you gonna paper that over? How are you gonna make sure he feels okay? Maybe he wanted the charge. Like he thrives on that stuff.
Yeah, maybe he wanted to take the charge. Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably just describe to him how catastrophic it could have been.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say never mind. Wasted joke. I won't tell it. I don't even think it would land.
You guys say it now.
Oh, no. From Evan Gualberto, friend of the podcast. Quote, for both of you, number one, minus anything with DeMar or any of the current roster or championship core, what's your favorite on-court Raptors memory, favorite off-court Raptors moment? 2, earliest Raps fandom memory. For Dana, what's your favorite reaction to one of your works? So let's start at the last part there. Favorite reaction to one of your works?
Well, so I wasn't very active at all on Twitter before just this summer, really. And it really was the reaction of 2 specific members of Raptors Twitter that was pretty instrumental and special in welcoming me to the Raptors community. Kate and Emma Brown, it was them reposting my stuff and encouraging me to keep posting. That was really a warm welcome that welcomed me to the Raptors Twitter community. Honestly, I probably would never have opened up my Etsy shop, my Great Dane Draws Etsy shop, if they hadn't bullied me into making a t-shirt of my OG buzzer beater illustration. But I really appreciate that, because I've made a lot of friends, and it's been super rewarding to share my work with the people, all over the world. I've, met individuals on there, and it's opened up opportunities like this, meeting Samson and being able to be on the podcast. So really thank you, Kate and Emma. That was really special, and I appreciate that a lot. And really anyone who's supported my work online or in person, that's really, really great. Appreciate that a lot.
Big shout out, Kate. Big shout out, Emma. That's fantastic. Yeah. I know you didn't ask me this, Evan, but I'll give you my favorite reaction to one of my works. And we're considering a tweet, a work of mine. And I tweeted out that Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry are 2 absolute motherfuckers. And Kyle Lowry's mom responded to the tweet.
Oh my God.
She said, I hope you mean this in the good way. And I said, yes, only in the good way. And so that was really funny. I thought that was great. That provided me with some humor. But earliest Raps fandom memory, I guess I'll go first. I think I remember watching Antonio Davis block. I can't even remember who, but in my brain, that's my first one. But I know I didn't watch the 2000 dunk contest live. So, it should be Vince Carter or Damon Stoudemire or something like that, but it's Antonio Davis blocking somebody for whatever reason. How about you, Dana?
That's sweet. Yeah, I loved him for sure. I notoriously have a very bad memory, but I just remember liking Raptors players or players in general more for their nicknames or, how cool they seemed rather than any, legitimate on-court reasons or characteristics like that. So Muggsy Bogues was cool because he was short like me and, he was in Space Jam. So that was sick. Jerome Williams, he was Junkyard Dog. So I love dogs. That made sense. Stuff like that. So that was, that's kind of how fandom goes when you're, really young. It's not so much how they play on the court. It's how cool they are, that kind of stuff.
That is, who do you think is the most appealing player to kids nowadays?
Oh, wow. Probably once this new Space Jam comes out. If LeBron isn't already, they're going to really probably try to target lots of kids with that.
I saw they were teaching Pepe Le Pew about consent, but that got cut. Did you see that?
I saw that too, yeah. He promotes
remarkable.
So bad. Wow.
And the Lola Bunny discourse, I think, is very, very funny as well.
That's hilarious. Oh man, I don't even know if I want to say this. I went for her Halloween one year. But I swear, if anyone who actually knows me, I was wearing like an extra large men's basketball jersey and sweatpants. So
You're like the
just
Redux. You're like
exactly.
the version this time around. You've always been a futurist that way.
Yeah, I'm a futurist.
Geometric art,
Yes, exactly.
Lola Bunny cosplay. It's all there. Okay, and I guess on-court, off-court memory of the franchise. Do you have a favorite? I guess this doesn't involve being in the arena or anything like that, so we're not going over something we've already talked about. Do you have something that sticks out to you?
Well, everyone now, like the current fandom, knows in recent memory, the OG Surge double screen, right? But I'm a big Amir Johnson person. So when I remember seeing that live, and I kind of did the Leonardo DiCaprio in Hollywood pointing at the screen thing, because one of my favorite moments is Amir and Jonas, when they essentially did the same thing. They locked arms and they did that little do-si-do double screen, same thing. I love that moment. I think it's just hilarious, kind of the OG of the OG times Surge double screen. But
that's what it's called, the do-si-do double screen. I'm surprised you knew that.
Exactly. I copyrighted that.
Yeah, exactly. TM at the end of it. Put it in a tweet. Yeah, that's pretty good. What would mine be? I really, really enjoyed all of the Kyle and DeMar commercial stuff, all of the hijinks that they had, the jokes they would play and all that. I always thought that was really funny. And if it was just like the bits they would do with Ford, where they'd be driving around and, Kyle's in the passenger seat, DeMar's driving, saying it ain't nothing but the usual, drifting around a course, stuff like that. Very funny. And yeah, that stuff was always, it made it so much more fun to cheer for them. And especially that Kyle could just hop onto an interview and be like, oh yeah, we used to just go to the McDonald's drive through together. And that's when I was fat. And just the self-awareness that was, that they participated in. And they both have been such great men to cheer for that I think I hold it dear that you get to support such great people. That's not guaranteed in sports, that excellence is coupled with great men or great women. Sometimes excellence comes along with, fuck them kids, Michael Jordan and stuff like that, or like any other type of negative thing. And so that was cool. And yeah, I feel like that's probably my most fond memory that isn't, tied to winning a championship or anything like that. And DeMar's 52-point game kicked ass. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Dana, feels like a podcast. And so at the end of every podcast, the thing I do, and especially for you, since you have not just, writing to promote, but something tangible, physical, the floor's yours. Plug away.
I guess, just you can follow me on Twitter. I have an Etsy shop for some of the illustrations that I make them into prints and t-shirts. Feel free to browse there. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Listener, just go to Great Dane Draws on Instagram or Great Dane 92 on Twitter, and then you'll find all that stuff. It'll be tagged in the description on Raptors Republic and obviously on Twitter. So if you're listening to this, you're probably already aware, but I cannot co-sign it enough. I think Dana's fantastic. I think her work is fantastic. There's nothing better than supporting people that you know and you like. And a lot of the times the economy leaves everybody in a situation where you have to do that. You have to support the people you want to see winning. Otherwise, they don't win. And I know winning seems like a really dumb term to use, but that's and this is not a push for, like, I'm not saying like you have to make Dana win at all costs. That's not what I'm doing, but just an overall sentiment. I think in these times it's really important. But Dana's stuff, I really like it. I really appreciate her. And so Dana, thank you so much for coming on. This has been very enriching for me. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Appreciate it so much, Samson.
Okay. And listener, whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye. 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 Goodbye.